What's up YouTube? It's LEGO King 71 and today's video is the second update in my Swamp Castle MOC building series. In my last update, I built all the terrain and water, the main gate, and also the outer walls of the Raven Knight's castle. So if you missed it, make sure to go back and check that video out. To begin this update, I'll be creating a rocky cliff at the back of the MOC on which I'll be building a lighthouse and blacksmithing area. After that, I'll build the main dock that the Raven Knights use to ship all their goods, and behind the dock, I'll be building the cathedral at the center of the castle. In my last video, all the islands I built were flat and just barely above the waterline. However, for this back island, I wanted to give the terrain some elevation so that it would be more visible and not be blocked from view by the buildings in front of it. This also added some variety to the terrain, which I think makes the overall build more interesting. For the walls of the cliff, I used a variety of dark gray slope bricks. You'll notice in this time lapse that I was very particular with how I placed these slope bricks to make sure that none of the adjacent slopes lined up with each other. Building the cliff this way made it so there's no blocky chunks of rock. I built the cliff only about 5 bricks tall since this is still a swamp and there usually aren't large variations in elevation in this kind of environment. Once the cliff side was finished, I began building the lighthouse on top of it, first starting with a very simple and small wooden shed entrance at the bottom left side of the lighthouse. For the lighthouse tower itself, I wanted to make it a cylindrical tower made out of stone. So to do this, I used a very similar technique to the one I used to build the windmill on my Black Falcon Mountain Castle MOC. The way this technique works is by building 1x1 pillars made of snot bricks which are rotated at various angles. Then, I attached an assortment of plates and tiles to the snot bricks to create a round, almost cone-like shape that narrows as it gets taller. In my opinion, the variety of plates and tiles creates a really awesome textured look for the tower. Like the windmill in my previous MOC, the lighthouse is built on the back edge of the MOC, and therefore I didn't build out the backside of the tower since this won't be visible. At the top of the tower, I built a small octagonal platform that the lantern room will rest on top of. I'm really happy with the way the finished lantern room turned out. I even added a seagull nest on top of the tower to add some extra detail. To bring even more life to the lighthouse, I'm considering adding a rotating light to the lantern room in a future video. But now that the lighthouse was pretty much complete, of course the next thing I needed to add to the MOC was a trading ship and dock. You might recognize the ship from my Dragon Knight Castle MOC that I built 2 years ago using free instructions I found on rebrickable.com from Jonas Kram. You'll notice that I made a few changes to the design, including changing some of the colors, along with changing a few other minor details. Some of these details include lining the floor of the ship with brown plates to look like wooden planks and adding lots of boxes of cargo. The cargo on board includes things like weapons, gold, fishing nets, barrels of liquor, and bottles of wine. For the dock, I've made posts that are built out of a pair of 1x1 round bricks on the bottom of the plates, and another 1x1 round brick on top of the plates. I then covered the top 1x1 brick with a 1x1 round tile with a tree stump print on it. These dock posts closely resembled the design of the long wooden poles of the castle's outer walls from my last video. Attached to the dock, I started building a wooden dock house. Similar to the shed at the bottom of the lighthouse, I built the walls of the dock house using brown tiles attached vertically to snot bricks. I offset all the planks by half a stud to really sell the paneled wood look. The windows on this building are black iron barred windows that you'll also see throughout the rest of the buildings on this MOC. The roofs that I built for all the buildings on this MOC will also be black. The 2 roof pieces simply rest on the tops of the walls below them. I added more crates to the dock to make the trading post look very busy. I even added some wooden ramps for minifigures to load and unload the cargo from the trading ships more easily. Once the cargo dock was complete, I moved on to designing the centerpiece and crown jewel of the Raven Knight's Swamp Castle. This is my second attempt at designing and building a cathedral, and I was super excited to evolve some of the ideas and building techniques from the last cathedral I built for the Black Falcon Mountain Castle. Just like the other buildings on this MOC, I'll be building the cathedral completely separate from the base plate so that I can place it at any angle I'd like. I think that breaking free from the grid restrictions of building directly on the base plate really improves the look of LEGO MOCs and makes them much more natural looking. Building it separate from the rest of the MOC also had the added benefit of allowing me to build at the comfort of my desk with easy access to all of my sorted light gray bricks. There's a few techniques and details of the cathedral that I want to highlight and talk about in a bit more detail. So first, let's start with the windows of the cathedral. To mimic the iron bars commonly found on the panes of glass on windows of Gothic cathedrals, I used these black fence pieces and connected them to snot bricks which lined the openings between the support columns. These black fence pieces are great because they allow for much taller windows to be built compared to if I used any of the standard window pieces that LEGO makes. These fence pieces also allow for translucent 1x1 plates to be attached, which creates an awesome stained glass design commonly found on Gothic cathedrals. The next thing I wanted to highlight is all the support columns and arches that I built for the cathedral. Besides looking elegant, these arches and columns were integral to the structure of cathedrals built during this period and are one of the defining features of their Gothic architecture. As you can see, I'm really trying to pack as much detail and Gothic-inspired architecture anywhere I possibly can on this cathedral. More examples of this architecture include the circular windows that I created on a few different parts of the cathedral, including one above the main entrance, another opposite of the main entrance, and a third near the top of the bell tower. I also added some cross-shaped windows to the bell tower to match the cross-shaped windows found on the main gate and side towers of the outer wall. I built some additional decorative crosses on a few of the roof ridge lines and placed some other Gothic-inspired pieces like gargoyles to really help sell the look of the cathedral. Like I mentioned earlier, once the cathedral was built, I could simply place it on the MOC at any angle I'd like. The next thing I built for the Raven Knights castle was a bridge to connect the main island to the lighthouse island. I decided to make this bridge out of stone. It's a pretty simple design, but I'm happy with how the bridge turned out. To fill in this area between the cargo dock and the bridge, I decided to put a bunch of crates and barrels that the Raven Knights are storing. A dock worker is posted here to keep a close eye on the cargo. Across the bridge, I started working on a small area for the Raven Knights blacksmith. First, I built a small stone staircase leading up to a stone fireplace. You can see that the fireplace's chimney even has smoke billowing out from the top. Then, using a very similar technique to the wooden walls in my previous video, I built a series of spiked wooden poles for a fence. On top of these poles, I placed a large angled black plate to create a triangular roof over the blacksmith's work area. To complete this area, I added some details like a sharpening stone, an armor rack, and an anvil for the blacksmith to use. To the left of the blacksmith and lighthouse island, there's another small island. Here, I decided to build another dock house, except this time I wanted to add a water wheel and a watchtower to differentiate it from the main cargo dock. Let's take a quick look at the water wheel I designed. You can see that I only built 3/4 of the wheel, but this was intentional because I wanted the remaining quarter to look like it was underneath the surface of the water. The dock house itself is pretty similar to the cargo dock building I designed earlier in the video. Again, I attached brown tiles vertically to snot bricks and offset every other tile by half a stud to get the awesome looking wooden panel look. Since this building is at the back of the MOC and it's relatively small and hard to see behind the massive cathedral, I decided to add a small wooden watchtower to this building to make it a bit more noticeable when viewing the MOC. The diagonal support beams for the watchtower give it a really awesome look, I think. And with that, the Raven Knight Swamp Fort was about 90% complete, I'd say. Here's a quick look at the MOC with all these additions. In the comment section below, I'd love to hear what your favorite part of the MOC is so far. But don't worry, that's not all for this Swamp Castle MOC building series. In my next build update video, I'll be working on building a small campsite for the Raven Knights that are posted outside of their fort, a witch's hut, a ranger trading post, an orc camp, a quicksand trap, and some really awesome trees and vegetation for the swamp. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss all those awesome additions I'll be making to the MOC in my next video. Also, if you're interested in seeing even more behind the scenes content and supporting my future videos, you can become a paid member of my channel by clicking the link in the description of this video. By becoming a member, you'll gain access to features like more frequent behind the scenes photos and status updates on projects that I'm working on, like this newest castle MOC, members-only polls to help me decide the priorities of my projects and future videos, in-video shoutouts at the end of my future videos, and even early access to my latest videos. Members will also get access to these awesome-looking loyalty badges and emojis that I've designed just for members of this channel. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want access to this super cute emoji of my dog Bandit who has starred in a few of my recent videos? If you're not interested in becoming a member, you can always support me by subscribing, dropping a like, or leaving a comment. As always, thanks so much for watching and stay tuned for new videos coming soon. See ya!